Today, we are diving into a massive billion-dollar question that cities all around the globe are grappling with. How do you redevelop one of the world's largest informal settlements without completely tearing apart the community that calls it home? This is the story of Dharavi.
Right in the heart of Mumbai, India's financial capital, there's a city within the city. This is Dharavi. It's home to nearly 1 million people, all living in this incredibly dense, sprawling network of homes and workshops packed into just about 1 square mile.
But, Dharavi is so much more than just a place where people live. It's an absolute powerhouse of industry, with thousands and thousands of small businesses cranking out over $1 billion a year. And for the last 40 years, its future has been at the center of this really fierce, ongoing debate. Now, there's this massive redevelopment project on the table that promises to totally transform Dharavi into a modern planned district, but it is splitting opinions right down the middle. So the big question is this a dream city in the making, or could it be a disaster for 1 million lives? Okay, let's really get into this. To understand the two sides of this fight, we first have to understand the deal itself. And it's a model, by the way, that has echoes in urban renewal projects all over, from Brazil to South Africa. The whole project is managed by something called the Slum Rehabilitation Authority, or SRA. The easiest way to think of it is as a government agency that was specifically set up to broker these huge redevelopment deals through partnerships between the public and private sectors. So here's how this incredibly high-stakes bargain actually works. A private developer, in this case it's the Adani Group, comes in, they fund and build brand new, modern, high-rise apartments for residents who are deemed eligible, and they do it completely free of charge. Now, in return for that massive investment, the developer gets the rest of Dharavi's land, which is some of the most valuable real estate in all of India, to build and sell luxury towers for a massive profit. See the trade-off? The government gets a redeveloped slum without using taxpayer money. It's a classic model of private profit for public good. And this deal has basically created two completely opposite visions for what Dharavi's future should look like, championed by two key experts. So let's take a look at the first one. On one side of the argument, you've got what many would call the pragmatic path. It's a solution that might be tough, sure, but its supporters say it's really the only realistic way to move forward. Real estate consultant Ghulam Zia, he calls the current situation a human crisis. He tells the story about families being so overcrowded in these tiny, single-room homes that an elderly father has to sleep out on the street just to give his son and daughter-in-law a few hours of privacy. For him, this is about a fundamental loss of human dignity. So the critical point from this perspective is that, look, the government simply can't do this on its own. Proponents argue that you absolutely need a huge, well-funded developer to handle the sheer scale and the logistical nightmare of a project like this. And while this SRA model might not be perfect, they see it as the only financially viable way to get it done and give people safer, better homes. But then there's a powerful counterargument. One that questions whether this model is truly about helping the people it's supposed to help, or if it's more about the incredibly valuable land they're living on. Urban planning professor Hussein Indorella is deeply, deeply skeptical. He argues that these SRA projects have a history of failure, and he points out that even top government officials have admitted that many of the tall apartment buildings created by this exact model have just become vertical slums. And this really lays out the core of the critique. Opponents point to the SRA's poor track record, the fact that anyone deemed ineligible gets displaced to camps way outside the city, and this is a big one, a pretty stark admission from the project's CEO that they don't even need the residents' consent. So from this viewpoint, the project looks a lot less like rehabilitation and a lot more like a real estate play that puts profit way ahead of people. And this story, it isn't just about Dharavi. The financial engineering behind this deal could send a massive ripple effect across Mumbai's entire property market, making a city that's already one of the world's most expensive even more unaffordable for everyone. To get how that works, we need to wrap our heads around a financial tool called Transfer of Development Rights, or TDR. For those of us watching from outside India, the easiest way to think about this is like development credits or air rights. It's basically a certificate that lets a developer build bigger and taller somewhere else in the city. Okay, now here's the catch, and it's a huge one. The Dharavi deal says that any developer building anywhere in Mumbai has to buy 40% of their required TDR, those development credits, directly from the Dharavi project. This basically gives the Dharavi project a monopoly on a huge chunk of the city's development market, And critics argue this is going to inevitably drive up construction costs across the board, making housing in Mumbai even more expensive for everybody, not just the wealthy. The project's financial success is literally tied to making the cost of living higher for millions of people. So, really, it all boils down to this fundamental disagreement that we're seeing in cities all over the world. Is private profit a necessary engine for public good, helping to fund projects that would otherwise never even happen? Or does putting profit first corrupt the entire mission to serve people from the very beginning? So, after 4 decades of debates and failed attempts, Dharavi is at this critical crossroads, and its future is really hanging in the balance. Professor Inderala's question, it just gets right to the heart of it all. He asks, are you giving people a house to sell on the market, or are you creating better homes? Because a home, he argues, is so much more than its asset value. It's your neighborhood, it's your community, it's how you make a living. At the end of the day, there are no easy answers here. It's a choice between a fast, financially driven solution that promises immediate, if pretty imperfect, change, and a slower, maybe more humane approach that honors the soul of the place. And as cities everywhere grapple with growth and gentrification, believe me, the world is watching to see what Mumbai decides.